start to how to manage misunderstandings. So look at that. Be unbiased, hate speech, belong to hate speech, avoid sexist language. You know that. Avoid ethnically or racially based language. And avoid demeaning language. So you know this lecture. Through this lecture, you know how to manage misunderstanding. So identified and described were the barriers that lead to misunderstandings. Okay, a student pilot was on his first solo flight. Exciting, right? When he told the tower for flight instructions, the air traffic controller asked, "Would you please give us your altitude and position?" They said, yeah, air traffic controller asked him, but the pilot replied, "I'm 5 feet 10 inches and I'm sitting up front." You know what I mean? Like the student pilot, we often misunderstand others. According to theologian and educator Lewis Howard, a communication barrier is something that keeps meaning from meaning. Something that keeps meaning from meaning. Words have the power to create monumental misunderstandings as well as deep connections. How do you manage the inevitable misunderstandings that occur even between the best of friends? So, be aware of missed meaning. Be aware of missed meaning. If you are not aware of a misunderstanding, you won't be able to clarify your message. The problem may be obvious, but how to identify the missed meaning is less obvious. Meaning is fragile. And because meaning can be misunderstood, it's important to be aware of the potential for miscommunication. Do you know the bypassing? Okay. Do you know bypassing? Bypassing confusion caused by the fact that the same word can mean different things to different people. Okay. One reason for misunderstanding is the problem of bypassing, which occurs when the same word or words mean different things to different people. You know what you mean when you exclaim, "That is so gay." You may intend the comment as a non-offensive joke or as just in fun put down of someone, but others especially someone who is scared, might not appreciate your humor. As the expression goes, I know that you believe you understand. What do you think? I said, but I'm not sure you realize that what you heard is not what I meant. The English language is imprecise. One researcher estimates that the 500 words used most often in daily conversation have more than 14,000 different dictionary definitions. And this number does not take into account personal connotations. So it is no wonder that bypassing is a common communication problem. You know, Pablo's dog. Pablo's dog salivated when it heard the bell that it had learned to associate with food. Sometimes we respond to symbol the way Pablo's dog did to the bell, forgetting that words can have more than one meaning. How do you avoid bypassing and missing someone's meaning? Be aware of the potential problem. Use the listening and responding skills we talked about the previous lecture to enhance communication accuracy. Okay? So ask a question. If you're uncertain of the meaning, you ask a question. Listen and paraphrase your understanding of the message. Okay? Second is be clear. You know, the malapropism. The confusion of one word or phrase for another that sounds similar to it. It's okay. Do you know Alice Roosevelt Longworth? He writes about a merchant seaman who was being investigated on the Mekong Act. Do you have any pornographic literature? Ask the interrogator. The interrogator said that the pornographic literature. The sailor burst out indignantly. I don't even have the pornograph. Like that. We sometimes we use we are be clear to say that. Each of these examples illustrate malapropism. a confusion of one word or phrase for another that sounds similar to it. You have probably heard people confuse such word pairs as construction and instruction, or subscription and prescription. Although this confusion may at times be humorous, it may also result in failure to communicate clearly. There are many reasons for a lack of clarity. Using words out of context, using inappropriate grammar, or putting words in the wrong order creates murky meaning. Confusion when a message isn't clear is the inevitable result, as illustrated by these notes written to London Road. You know, the toilet is blocked, and we cannot bath the children until it is clear. Like that. Will you please send someone to mend our cracked sidewalk? Yesterday, my wife tripped on it and it's now pregnant. Pregnant means a lot of meaning. One of the meaning is important. There's, the pregnant, yeah? Usually use the pregnant. Have a yeah. These are funny examples, but in fact, incorrect or unclear language can launch a word or sink a ship. We give the symbols meaning. We do not receive inherent meaning from symbols. Besides, avoiding malapropism and being careful not to use the wrong words. How else can you speak with clarity? Consider this strategy to enhance message clarity. Think about what you mean if you speak. When you speak, observe your listeners' reactions. Use appropriate examples. They need not be elaborate or highly detailed, but well told examples can add clarity to your conversations. Ask the other person whether he or she can understand you or has questions. Consider the perspective and the background of the person or persons to whom you are speaking. If you are other-oriented of the person, you will assess how someone else will respond to your message and try to select those symbols that he or she is most likely to interpret as you intend. First, for most communication, the object is to be so specific and concrete as possible. right? Vague ranges create confusion and frustration. Consider like that. Where is aluminum foil? Somebody asked. Oh, that's a drawer. Oh, what's a drawer? What drawer? In the kitchen. But where the kitchen? Right, crazy? But which one? There are 5 drawers. Oh, the second one from the top. Why didn't you say so in the first place? It is if you use a restricted code that has the meaning your listener does not know. A restrict code is a set of words that had a particular meaning to the subgroup or culture. You know the restrict code. The restrict code is set of words that had particular meaning to the person, group, or culture. You know that if you send many text messages, you probably use a restrict code of texts. Brief abbreviation for common words such as Q, C for CU, U, C, CU means CU. You know the LOL for language out loud. To you, such a restrict code is clear, but to someone who doesn't receive many text messages, have wondered whether these texts have still confused over the non-text writing, such as letters or research papers. Initial research suggests that they have not, although texts may sometimes appear out of context. Individuals generally adapt their writing style to the specific situation. CULL, ubiquitous. So someone knows that, someone doesn't know that. Okay? Someone who doesn't receive many text messages, these abbreviations can result in head-scratching confusion, right? We sometimes developed abbreviation or special terms to save time. You know, when you speak to others in our group. Musicians, for example, use special terms like mash up to mean mixing several songs together, right? So, ham radio operator use codes known to other ham operators to communicate over the airwaves, such as like this 88, which means Q. The it means hugs and kisses. Hugs and kisses. In both instances, this shortened language would make little sense to an outsider. In fact, groups, they rely on restricted codes may have greater cohesiveness because of this shared secret language, or jargon. Jargon, another name for restrict code, specialized terms or abbreviations whose meanings are known only to members of a specific group. You know the two what do you mean? That means to be or not to be. To be or is the question, or not to be. That is the questions. That is the question. That means that is question. Tomorrow, do you know what means? Somebody know that. Somebody doesn't know that. That means tomorrow. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. Tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow. That means. There are many things like that. When people have known each other for a long time, they may also use restrict code in their exchange. Often, married couples communicate using shorthand speech that no outsider could ever interrupt. To enhance the clarity of your message with others, especially people who don't know you well, be as specific as you can to reduce uncertainty. Okay. An additional challenge to clarify is the tendency to use language to make unqualified, often untrue generalizations called honest. The called honest statements. Honest tendency to use language to make unqualified, often untrue generalizations. Statements such as all women are poor drivers and people from the south love iced tea. Like that are generalizations that imply the person making the pronouncement has examined all the information and has reached a definitive conclusion. Although the word would be much simpler if you could make such a statement rarely, if ever, provide evidence to support the sweeping generalization. One way to avoid untrue generalization is to remind yourself that your use and interpretation of a word are unique. Saying the words "to me" either to yourself or out loud if you offer an opinion or make a pronouncement can help communicate to others. The new review is uniquely yours, rather than announcing curfews for teenagers are ridiculous. You could say, "To me, curfews for the teenagers are ridiculous." Indexing means avoiding generalizations by using statements that separate one situation, person, or example from another. That's indexing. Indexing your comments and remarks is another way to avoid overgeneralization on these statements. To index is to acknowledge that each individual situation or example is unique, rather than declare that all doctors act abruptly. You might say, "My child's pediatrician spent a lot of time with me, but my internist never answered my questions." This statement reminds you that not all doctors are the same. Okay? Be aware of a change in meaning. Be aware of changes in meaning. The static evaluation. Static evaluation is a pronouncement that does not take the possibility of change into consideration. You change, your word changes. But a static evaluation is a statement that fails to recognize change. Labels in particular have a tendency to freeze frame our awareness. For example, Sam, who was known as the class nerd in high school, is today successful and a polished business professional. So the old level no longer fits. Different. Nerd meaning changes meaning today. general semantics use the metaphorical expression. The map is not the territory. The map is not the territory to illustrate the concept of a static evaluation. Like a word, a map symbols or represented reality. But the road system is consistently changing. New roads get built and old one closed. If we use 2010 map to find the fastest way to get from the San Marcos, Texas to Georgetown, Texas, you wouldn't know that you could take the highway 130 Austin bypass. It didn't exist in 2010, but it does now. Similarly, if you use all the levels and do not adjust your thinking to accommodate the change, you will get lost semantically. To avoid static evaluation, try dating your observations and indicate to others the time period from which you are drawing your conclusion. For example, if you cousin cousin comes to town for a visit, say, if you're a person, when I last saw you, you love to listen to Florence and the Machine. This allows for the possibility that your cousin's taste may have changed during the last few years. Try to observe and acknowledge changes in others. If you are practicing what you know about becoming other-oriented, you are unlikely to erect this barrier. Another thing is, be aware of polarizing either or extremes. Be aware of polarizing either or extremes. You know the polarization. Polarization is description and evaluation of what you observe in terms of extremes, such as good or bad, old or new, beautiful or ugly. That's polarization. Polarizations entails describing and evaluating what you observe in terms of extremes with an either or perspective. It's not that clear. It's not that clear cut. General semanticists, people who study language and how it affects our behavior, remind us that the world is not black and white, but instead comes in a variety of colors, hues, and shades. If you describe things in polarizing extremes, leaving out the middle ground, the new language does not accurately reflect reality. And because of the power of words to create, you may believe your own pronouncement. Family counselors who listen to family first find that the tendency to see things from an either or point of view is a classic symptom of a troubled relationship. Placing the entire blame on your partners for a problem in your relationship is an example of polarizing. Few relational difficulties are exclusively one side. Next, be unbiased. Be unbiased. You know, hate speech. Hate speech. Hate speech, words or phrase intended to offend or show disrespect for someone's race, ethnicity, cultural background, gender, or some other aspect of the person's identity. So, you have to avoid sexist language. You know, sexist language is the use of words that reflect stereotypical attitudes or describe roles in exclusively male or female terms. Words such as congressman, mayorman, and mankind ignore the fact that women are part of the workplace and the human race. Contrast this with member of Congress, letter carrier, and humankind, which are gender neutral and allowed for the inclusion of both man and woman. Or rather than eliminating the word man from your vocabulary, try to use appropriate labels when you know the gender of the subject. A male police officer is policeman. A female police officer is a policewoman. Rather than salesperson, you could say salesman or saleswoman, depending on the gender of the seller. You know, the sexist word sentence like that. I'd like you to meet Dr. and Mrs. John Chow. Unbiased sentence. I'd like to meet Dr. Sue Ho and Dr. John Chow. They are husband and wife. Or I'd like to you meet John Chow and Sue Ho. They're both doctors at Mercy Hospital. So you say unbiased using word. Many of our social conversations also diminish or ignore the importance of woman. Additional evidence of the substantial progress and changed attitude toward women in the professional arena is reflected by term used to describe workers now. Compare with those used in the 1950s. Today, terms used today, flight attendants. It's a long time ago we called stewardess, but it changed. It changed term. Flight attendants, firefighter. Long time ago we called the fireman. Police officer. Long time ago we called the policeman. But now we changed, term used today. Police officer, physician. Physicians long time ago in 1950s. Female doctor. Terms used today, woman at the office. You know, the miss. We use the like that. But terms used in 1950s, miss, Mrs. It's different. You can't compare it with those used in the 1950s. No. Mankind, today we use people, not mankind, humans. So you remember that terms used today. So consciously remembering to use non-sexist language will result in several benefits. First, non-sexist language both reflect and reinforce non-sexist attitude. Okay, your attitude are reflected in your speech, and your speech affects your attitude. So, monitoring your speech for sexist remarks can help you examine your attitude about sexist assumptions you may hold. In addition, using non-sexist remarks will reflect your sensibility to others. Third, non-sexist language will make your speech more contemporary and ambiguous by substituting the word mankind for humankind for mankind. For example, you communicate that you are including all people, not just men, in your observation or statement. And finally, your non-sexist language will empower others. By eliminating sexist bias from your speech, you will help confirm the value of all the individuals with whom you interact. Labeling, the principle of being other-oriented suggests that you can be sensitive in the way you speak of someone's sexual orientation. Labeling someone fag, queer, or dyke not only is offensive and harmful to the person being labeled, but also reflect a lack of sensitivity of the person doing the label. We are not suggesting that certain words be expunged from dictionaries or never altered. But when describing others, be sensitive to how they wish to be addressed in discourse. Another thing is avoid ethnic or racially based language. You don't say she is Indian giver. You don't say he drew him down on the price. Avoid ethnically or racially based language. Okay. Another thing is avoid demeaning language. Language barriers are created not only when speakers use exist or rationally biased language, but also when they disparage a person's age, mental, physical ability, or social standing. Calling someone a geezer, retard, or Taylor trash is disparaging. Discrimination based on age is a growing problem in the workplace. In some occupation, as a worker moves into his or her 50s, it may be difficult to change jobs or find work, despite the laws designed to guard against age discrimination. Such discrimination clearly exists. As we have noted, the language that people use has power to affect attitude and behavior. That's why using negative terms to describe the elder can be subtle, or sometimes not so subtle, way of expressing this respect toward all the generation. someone describes the people with disabilities can negatively affect how they may be perceived. So, we have to monitor the way you talk about someone's social class. Although some society and cultures make considerable distinctions among classes, it is nonetheless offensive today to use words that are intended to demean someone's social class. Some terms such as welfare recipient, manual labor, blue collar worker, like that, is often used derogatorily. Avoid labeling someone in a way that shows disrespect toward the person's social standing, education, or socioeconomic status. Avoid. Okay? How to use the word of support and comfort. How to use the words of support and comfort. Use words to provide support and comfort and to avoid defensiveness. Okay? There will be many times when you need to offer an opinion or react to something someone has said or done. What an effective way of using the principles and skills presented in this to be both honest and supportive of others, right? Okay? Describe your feelings rather than evaluate behavior. No one likes to be judged or evaluate. Criticizing and name-calling obviously can create relational problems, but so can attempt to diagnose others' problem or win their affection with insincere praise. As a British statement, Winston Churchill declared, "I am always ready to learn, although I do not always like being taught. Not surprisingly, research has found that being positive and supportive are more characteristics of a satisfied and secure relationship than being submissive and evaluative. Correcting others, even when we are doing it for their own good, can raise their hackers. Use the word I message. Use the word I message. One way to avoid evaluating others is to eliminate the accusatory you from your language. Okay? Statements such as you always come in late for supper, or you never pick up the dirty clothes in your room, tag the person's sense of self-worth and usual result in the defensive reaction. Instead, use the word I to describe your own feelings and thoughts about a situation or event. I find it hard to keep your support warm a situation or event. I find it hard to keep your support warm when you're late. Or I don't enjoy the extra work of picking up your dirty clothes. When you describe your own feelings, instead of berating the receiver of the message, you are, in essence, taking ownership of the problem. This approach leads to greater openness and trust because your listener is less likely to feel rejected or as if you were trying to control him or her. Also, when you express your emotions, make sure you choose the right words to communicate your feelings. So, message interpersonal communication researchers Amy Bippus and Stacy Young found that simply prefacing our emotionally changed piece of feedback with the word I instead of you doesn't always melt away relational tension. These researchers had the subject of in their study read hypothetical examples in which people used either I message or you message. The researchers found no significant difference in how people thought others would respond to the message. In other words, an I message was not found to be better than a new message in all instances. The fact that subjects were reading the message rather than actually involved in their own conversation with a partner may have affected the result. The researchers conclude that regardless of whether a message is preferred with I or you, people don't like hearing negative expressions of emotion directed toward them. Yeah. Do you think that like that? Do you think same thing? Sometimes simply using an I message may be too subtle to take the sting out of negative message you want to express. You may need to add a longer justification when you provide negative emotional information to others. We call this use extended I language, which is a brief preface to a feedback statement intended to communicate that you don't want the person to think that you don't value or care about him or her, even though you have a negative message to share. Saying something like, I don't want you to misinterpret what I am about to say because I really do care about you. Or I don't think it's entirely your fault, but I am feeling frustrated when I experience may have a better chance of enhancing communication than simply beginning a sentence with the word I instead of you. Remember there are no magic words for enhancing communication. However, strategy of being other-oriented do seem to enhance the quality of communication. The future developing your skills, practice using I language and extended I language will help you practice expressing your feeling accurately and effectively. Listening for the way you use I, you, me, and we can provide clues to the overall quality of the relationship. Research has found that couples who describe their relationship in terms of we rather than use the personal pronoun I are likely to be in a less distressed relationship. But when studying couples' instant electronic message, another research team found no evidence that satisfied couple used we more than I. Using I may reflect healthy self-disclosure. And it may also suggest that the couples are comfortably separate rather than tightly connected. Healthy separateness may reflect a freedom that they feel in the relationship, as it's true in all communication, context, and situation are important when analyzing the meaning of the use of I, me, and we to gain clues about the quality of the relationship. Okay, so next we're gonna keep trying to more about that. Okay, thank you. Bye bye.